Hi guys, Ryan bit off here blogging from paradise. Gonna play with the light situation. Oh, that's pretty solid. I think we can go with that. Put this up here. I want to get on Instagram as well. So sit tight, guys. Why not simulcast, right? Oh, here we go. Checking connection. I'm with you, YouTube guys. You are now live on Instagram as well. Let's position it. Be very clever here. Clever simulcasting ways. Does that work? No, I think that'll work, right? Yeah. No, doesn't quite work. Does that work? No, it doesn't really work. You know what? Maybe that will work. Anyway, guys, just gonna dive in now and pretty much discuss the followers starting the live video. Thank you. I'll wave. I'm gonna wave. Ask the question: how much time do you guys spend blogging? It's really important to be very straight with yourself, because a lot of bloggers talk about blogging for 3 years or 4 years or even 5 years. But in truth, they haven't blogged for 5 years. They've only owned their domain and hosting, or let's just say they've paid their domain and hosting bills for 5 years, which is cool. So the credit card payment has gone through for the past 5 years. Very, very good, impressive. However, when it comes down to the actual time that they spend in front of a laptop writing and publishing a blog post, engaging other bloggers in a genuine outreach campaign. So let's say you stop by bloggingfromparadise.com and you read one of my posts, you spend 5 or 10 minutes, let's say 5 minutes, a lot of shorter posts these days, and then you write a comment and you publish the comment. And then you go to, say, Donna Merrill's blog at donnamerrilltribe.com, or Lisa Sicard's blog at inspiredtothrive.com, or Mudassir Ahmed's blog at bloggingexplained.com. Make sure you visit their blogs, guys. And you read their posts and you gain valuable content, and then you drop a comment, a genuine comment, at least a paragraph. You address them by name. When you start adding up all that time, or when you honestly look at the time and say, uh-oh, haven't been doing that at all, you'll get a very good reflection of your commitment to blogging and how much time you really blog. Now, a lot of bloggers say, oh, I've been blogging for 3 years, but that's not true, because they've only spent 20 hours a year blogging. That's not blogging. You're not blogging if you spend 20 hours a year doing something. I'm talking about hours a day. And it's not hard work, guys. I just have to stress this again and again and again. It's not about you have to put in time, but on a worldly level, in time and space, where your attention and energy grows. And I don't care who you are. I've followed a lot of the top bloggers in the world for many, many years. They just all, not forget the top bloggers in the world, anybody in any endeavor, they put in the time and they practice. It's very simple to see this when we look at talented CEOs and athletes and entertainers. They didn't just sit there. You can't just sit there and expect something to happen. You have to get clear in your mind by honing these skills, by practicing. So how much time do you really spend blogging? And I wanted to add the really, because let's be honest with ourselves. How many hours did you spend creating and connecting today? 0? Okay, that's okay. How about the last week? 0 hours? Okay, that's okay. It's not about being tough on yourself. It's about being honest, so you could start seeing the root of your blogging problems. And it's not you. It's not you. It's simply the complete ownership of the fact that the root of your blogging problems are in your mind. And for most of us guys, it's something I had to overcome. That mind problem, which is fear, it's always fear, is this fear of, well, I'm not even going to bother blogging anyway, because nobody's going to read my blog. It's like constantly living in the past, living completely in the past. Well, look at my past results. Nobody visited my blog anyway, so I won't do anything, because in the future they won't. And that's just an absurd level of thinking. How could you ever become skilled at something if you keep looking back in the past at failure and you predict that you're going to experience future failure? So you're not going to blog and put in any time. And then you look at yourself, and a lot of bloggers look at themselves like in shock and dismay. But when you move your ego aside a little bit and you ask yourself this question, how much time did I really spend blogging? When you start counting the minutes and hours of that, and you say, oh, shoot, over the past 3 months, I haven't spent a minute, I haven't blogged, I haven't created or connected, I haven't blogged at all, I've spent 0 hours. So that 3 months passing, you can't count that towards, well, I've been a blogger for 3 months. No, you haven't. You've done nothing blogging wise for 3 months. You have to actually create and connect and do things that bloggers do to blog. This is just a chief cause of failure. It's so common because the ego, in most people's minds, it creates these blind spots where we can't see. Specifically, it's the ego creates it. The ego creates it. You can't see that the root of your blogging problems is the fact that you're not blogging at all. You're not feeling the discomfort. You're not facing fears. You're not releasing fears. You're not developing skills and confidence and clarity because you're not blogging. It's uncomfortable to have this discussion. And a lot of bloggers, I've seen it again and again. Like, I've been blogging for a year now. And I'll ask them, talk about struggling and just having such a tough time. And I ask them, how many hours have you spent in front of the computer for that year? Even on a daily basis. And it's just like, I hear crickets. It's because they've spent maybe 5 or 10 or maybe 30 or 40 hours for the whole year. How could you ever get good at something with 40 hours of practice over 365 days? That's 1 week's worth of practice. It's not a year. And it's funny because we have to laugh at ourselves and look at ourselves in the light of truth. And I'll give you a perfect example. A few moments ago, I thought, wouldn't it be fun? It was just this impulse to do another live YouTube broadcast because I could do it on my laptop, which is so cool. My friend Chris told me that I could do this. I'm like, oh, that's so cool on a laptop, because I thought it was like 1,000 subs, but that's just on the phone. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do it on the laptop, do it on HP. Why not? And of course on Instagram as well. So I'm like, cool. And then my ego came in and said, well, you don't really have big followings there, so maybe not. Thinking about a return or an outcome. When my heart, the spirit was just like, yeah, you'll have fun doing it. Put it out there. So that's when you put in the time, you access these experiences in your mind. Everything is in our mind that reflects back to you. Okay, that's a fear. That's the ego that says hold back. And that's exactly the type of stuff, the type of fears. That's the type of inner migration. You have to go into your mind and actually feel that stuff, feel the fear and gain the experience. You'll learn it in no other way other than through experience, to be able to face the fear, feel the fear and release the fear, and to let it go, and then to broadcast live. That's the deal. And then that's the starting point. These are the beginning steps of becoming a professional blogger way down the road. And you keep doing it again and again and again and again. And you're blogging mainly for passion and fun and freedom, because that's the driver. Hey, Chris, just mentioned you, buddy. You know, it's funny. I figured it was you. And I'm seeing 702 Rider. I'm like, I know it has to be one of my buddies, followers here. And then I looked it up. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's Chris. Okay, figured that. You've been one of my, again, I know a few people on YouTube. And I'm like, yeah, you've been there. So I appreciate it, bro. Hey, what's up, my friend? So good to see you. Popsy, really appreciate it, bro. So here's the drill, guys. If you're willing to look at yourself and say, how many hours have I generously, patiently, and persistently decided to create and connect today and over the past week and over the past month, blogging wise, then you'll start getting a really good idea if you're putting in the time and work, aka work, but really just being truly helpful. That's when you'll get that reflection of like, okay, I've been putting in 2 or 3 or 5 hours a day or an hour of creating and connecting. And you can be like, okay, I'm getting there. I'm starting to build momentum. Or you just say, no, I haven't blogged at all. And that's okay too. It's not about being tough. Guys, always be gentle with yourself, because even if in my spicier moments, I would become, say, maybe a little feisty and let's say tough love when I'm offering advice in my blog. More older me, more fear in my mind, but I would still love you. I still being compassionate by telling you the truth. But sometimes I'd be like, be tough. It's your fault. Own it. All that like tension. And of course, as I've faced the fear in my mind over this 14-year career and a lot of mindset training, I have also faced, felt, and released a lot of fears in my mind. So like ultimately, you could say tough love, this or that. You really want to be honest, truthful, and incredibly gentle with yourself, because beating yourself up, it doesn't work. Tried it. I've tried it with blogging, didn't work. When I did bodybuilding, I tried it, didn't work. When I was a JUCO basketball player through my high school career, junior college, didn't work. Didn't work. Like self-hate doesn't work. Self-love works, self-acceptance. So as you're looking at yourself and you're like, man, I haven't blogged a day. I haven't blogged an hour over the past month. How much time I didn't spend any time. Don't beat yourself up. But as you're being gentle with yourself, go into your mind and say, okay, I'm making these excuses. The ego is making these excuses. Some seem valid, some seem invalid, some seem and just begin to ask yourself, if you really want to put in the time to blog, what do I value? Do I value having fun, freeing myself, maybe being uncomfortable and nudging into fear and feeling nervous and embarrassed and ashamed, but just it feels like it would be fun to help people through blogging. It just feels like it, but I'm scared. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I feel like a fraud. Who am I? Like, these thoughts and feelings will come up in your mind, and these are the type of value finding sessions. Like, well, I value fun and freedom and helping people. It feels good. In my mind, I'm just starting to value that more than I'm absolutely bat crap terrified that I don't know what I'm doing. I'll look like a fraud. I feel like a fraud. Like, all those bad emotions, those are fear, the lower emotions. I feel bad. And the good feelings are the fun and the freedom and love. In your mind, when you say, I value that fun and freedom and what I could experience now through blogging and helping people, and then what it can expand into, like circling the globe as a blogger, or blogging part-time, or blogging full-time in your hometown, I value that freedom over the fear. And that's the turning point, when you value it in your mind emotionally, the feelings. Because when you think, man, that would be so fun and freeing. Wow. Even though you're really scared to blog and you don't want to put in the time, you don't want to work at blogging today, I'll use those, but you don't want to blog, you don't want to stop by and watch my live broadcasts and take notes. You don't want to invest in one of my ebooks. You don't want to read one of my courses. Listen to one of my courses, or read one of them, or read a blog post, or you don't want to read a post and then drop a genuine comment, or listen to I don't want to put in the time. When that love of freedom in your mind becomes even a little bit stronger than the fear of, I don't want to blog. I don't want to do it. I got all this other stuff that I value more than the blogging and the fun and the freedom. That's when it's the tipping point. You experience the tipping point, and then you get in front of your laptop after watching this video, or maybe during it, while you're watching, and you start writing. Or you read a top blog in your niche and you spend 10 minutes to post a really genuine, in-depth, generous comment, and you pick up that information and you're like, oh, that's awesome. I just spent 15, 20 minutes worth of time blogging. And you'll feel more accomplished. You'll feel more confident. You'll feel more clear. I see it doing these live broadcasts. I've written enough blog posts and guest posts for 40 lifetimes. I've got 60,000 backlinks pointing to my blog, or 50, or I don't trust any services anyway. They just go up and down, but I've seen it. I just got a billion, whatever. And that's cool. And I still write and publish a post daily on my blog. But these videos are giving me a new level of fulfillment and freedom, especially the live broadcasts where I really feel like I let my personality out a little bit more. I mean, the shorter ones are cool too. And also I detach more so with these live videos. They're just fun. I'm just doing them to be truly helpful. I'm finding that as I just dive into these a little bit more every day, between maybe not daily on Instagram and YouTube, but here and there, but definitely on Facebook and Twitter, most days, it just feels like the more time and energy I put into them, the more everything's coming together because I'm not caring about the outcomes, if that makes sense. And that's another experience that I have to gain now, time-wise and work-wise, doing this since 2007. It just keeps expanding, and it's fun and it's freeing. I love this. You guys can tell I have fun doing this. It does not feel like work to me. I don't think it comes across as work to people. Practiced a lot. I gave many thousands of hours to working, to blogging, to reach this point. Yet still, it's just this concept of when you're in it for such a long time and you're having fun with it, it's still a little uncomfortable at times, and you still face fears, and you still make these realizations of, I'm still a little attached to outcomes there. But you need to actually blog. You need to spend the time. And that's what's so important for anybody out there who's maybe struggling or has kind of been non-committal, or just like, I want to get into it and I want to blog, but force doesn't work. Force is fear. Force negates. Fear negates. It's an illusion. Working hard, pushing, straining, striving, none of that works either. Like, just work hard and put in the time. No. You will always make time for what you value, but you need to shift your value system, like what you value, in order to blog. And when the freedom and the fun and the love and then the vision of like, man, it'd be so cool to blog and to run a bit, when that in your mind, it has to be you have to make the decision, visualizing, spending time in quiet. When that becomes stronger than the fear in your mind that fuels like excuses or the other stuff that the ego creates, so you're not blogging and it's been 3 months since you wrote a post, I'm just saying that, or a month or 2 weeks, whatever, or since you did anything blogging wise, that's when you blog. That's when you put in the time and the work. That's the beauty of it. It's all in your mind, like everything in life. Or being genuine and clear, transparent. In those quiet time sessions, or when you're visualizing, you're just in a quiet room, you may have the realization that what you value, that fun and freedom and joy and helping people, will not flow through blogging. And that's cool. That's cool. Then you do something else that feels fun and freeing. Blogging's not the answer. I'm somewhat partial to it, but of course you have to follow your passion. And most people who are tuning into these videos, some will say, yeah, it's really not blogging. It's not it. But some will gain the clarity and say, yeah, I just figured out with you sharing that, Rye, the blogging from Paradise guy, that spending time in quiet and visualizing that the freedom and the fun, it wasn't there. It wasn't blogging. It wasn't maybe podcasting or something else, something offline, or maybe a lateral move with your job or a promotion. Who knows? You know. Your intuition has all the answers. It knows everything. We just strip down, unwind the ego with all its fears and its limiting beliefs. And then we hear that small, still voice much more loudly. But you got to value fun and freedom more than fear to make these realizations. And a lot of you guys tuning in with the hashtags, you've been following me, because I'm hitting my hashtags and I'm noticing the views going up a little bit as I hit the hashtags and do the longer form videos. And I'm not attached, but I could spot these little patterns, and it's coming from me having fun doing this. You got to put in the time. You have to actually blog. Like, you have to be in front of a laptop. That's what's really important. So first you're like, okay, how much time do I really spend? I've said I've blogged for 5 months, but I've really paid my domain and hosting bills. I paid my domain bill for the month, my hosting bills for 5 months, but I've only spent like 2 hours a day. Then when you look at yourself in the light of truth, maybe 2 hours is actually be okay, but 2 hours a week, I did 2 hours on Saturday last week. So then it's like, oh yeah, I'm being honest with myself. Nothing's ever going to happen if I give 2 hours to blogging every week. It's got to be a daily thing for an hour. And it's very freeing and liberating to be honest with yourself, because then you could say to yourself, if I do this, it'll be uncomfortable, but I know if I'm creating and connecting generously and genuinely for an hour and a half a day to 3 hours a day, even if you work a full-time job, you do it at night, then you'll notice things will start coming together, and it'll feel really good when you'll see those results of, instead of nobody visiting your blog, 5 people visiting your blog, 10. Even these videos like on YouTube, just not much of a following. And then the past couple of days, if I'd had 1 view or 2 views, and I'm not doing it for that. And then when I see 12 or 8 within 24 hours, like for me, who's been in this game, who's, a lot of people visited my blog, on these networks, there's not as much engagement, or people engaging on Twitter, 1, 2, 3 people. It's a nice feeling to see 1 and then 12, and knowing it's your passion and me putting in the time and working. Not the action, but the mind. It's all in the mind. So I'm like, let me hit those hashtags and do a longer live broadcast. And oh, cool, I like doing this anyway. And it goes from 1 view with most videos, or 2 over to 12 in a day, or 8 in a day, or 50. And like, oh man, that feels good. And it's these tiny little increments. It's all that I'm noticing in my mind. But you only notice this stuff, like with your blog, nobody's visiting. But then you're honest with yourself, and I'm like, I got to put in a freaking couple hours a day here. And things going to happen if I'm sitting there on the sidelines. Then you're putting in a little bit of time, an hour and a half a day. And after a couple days, 12 people visit your blog after you maybe wrote and published a post. And then you read blog posts, a couple top blogs in your niche, and published genuine comments. Then you see the next day that 14 people visited your blog, when usually it's 0 or 1 person, or maybe even 0. Like, man, that felt really good. And it's those little glimmers of hope, those little, from the ego level, but those little patterns, positive patterns, where you're like, oh shoot, I'm getting traffic. And then somebody drops a comment after nobody dropped a comment in like 4 months. And you're like, oh, I got a comment. It's like these little charges of hope and confidence and clarity of like, oh, this could really happen. That fuels you even more. Because even though you're doing it mainly for fun and freedom, there is a little bit of a worldly attachment, and it just feels good to do it to help people. Then when the people show up to be helped, it's like, wow, I got a comment. I got 30 people visited my blog today. Wow. That feels really good. Like those 30 people to help. And then it's these little moments where it's like, you gain that confidence and clarity that we all need to gain a little bit more of in the beginning, even if we're doing it mainly for fun and freedom, because we still have the ego calling some shots up there. But that only happens when you actually work. It won't happen when you're not blogging. And this honesty, how much time do you really spend blogging? Like that's the real, really, you can't let the ego call it silly shots with your blind spots and say, well, I've been blogging for a year. How much time in front of a computer? How much money you invest in your blogging education? That's part of it. How much time researching posts, getting in the minds of your readers? How much time, okay, you have no readers, reading top blogs in your niche and seeing what problems they're covering, what topics they're covering, what problems they're solving. And you sitting down in front of your computer for hours and writing and publishing blog posts, then promoting the blog post along multiple channels, building relationships with bloggers, reading their posts, mentioning other bloggers on your blog, buying ebooks, investing in ebooks. And then how much time are you spending reading over the course of the year? Oh, 100 hours? No, I don't even think so. That's right. I haven't really done anything with my blog since October, you might say to yourself at the end of the year. Oh, it's been 2 months. I've spent no time blogging, 0 hours. Oh, I get one of my problems. I'm not actually blogging. It's very liberating. It might be a little sting, a little cold water to the face of the ego, a little bit of a sting, but who cares? The ego stinks. It's the cause of all your problems. It's fear. It's the illusion. It's not who you really are. You're really limited. We're all limited, unlimited, I should say. The ego is limited, but we're all unlimited spirits with infinitely powerful minds. That's the only reality. Don't trust this body puppet or the ego, or even like Ryan Biddulph, this ego guy. You don't trust the ego, you tune into the love and the generosity and the sharing. And that's why I think recently too, I've seen more interest, because everything's expanding as I'm doing more things from love. But again, I'm doing the mindset training, and I'm actually learning through blogging experience. That's just one of the most valuable currencies. You need the experience. So when you look at yourself honestly, okay, I'm going to start blogging. And then when you start blogging and putting in the time, speaking of which, I'm going to roll under half hour. We got a little shopping to do in a bit. Thanksgiving at the Biddulphs tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there in the States. When you actually put in the time, it feels good because you'll feel more accomplished. And then you'll see doing the right things with the right energy, generosity, patience, persistence, when those reader bases start it's like nobody's visiting, and then one person, then two people. And then a day you'll see like 15 people visit it. Wow. And then that influences you, inspires you even more so. I got to blog tomorrow. Or maybe not write and publish a post, but I got to do some outreach tomorrow. And then might go down to 8 visitors the following day. That's cool. That's cool. Cumulative, we're going up. Then it goes up to 20, and you're like, yeah. And then you gain that momentum, and it's like a snowball. It's like an avalanche. You're like, I'm blogging every day. That's it. Doesn't mean writing and publishing a post, but every day I'm going to read 3 to 4 blogs in my niche and leave genuine comments, and then maybe publish a post a week. And then when you look back at yourself and say, how much time do I really spend blogging? Then you can be like, oh yeah, I did 16 hours this week. I did 30 hours this week. Wow, I really cooked and did 40. I did 8 and 8 on Saturday and Sunday, so that was 16. And during the week, I churned out 24. I just got it in. I just did it. Or maybe you did 10 and 10. Because when you value freedom and you see the freedom that blogging can give you, you won't, I work 10 hours. It will just fly. Like my days now, as I get clear in my mind, they fly. I don't even know how much. And it's not saying I spend 8 hours a day, but like I'm in and out, and this half hour now, 27 minutes, that I'm tabulating to my blogging quote unquote workload. But it's just that mental commitment. It just flies. This half hour is like, boom, I have to stop it. I'd be here for an hour. You guys know it. I could talk to a closed door, hold a really strong conversation with a closed door. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining. All my rocking friends and followers. Few rocking friends and followers, but I know folks are going to be tuning in a little bit more after I end the stream and both upload, and I've seen that already. So really appreciate you guys joining. If you have any questions, you could drop comments. I don't check, well, probably YouTube I check more. And I check Instagram as well. So yeah, you could drop comments. You could send me email. I really don't check, but get me on Twitter or Facebook or just, Instagram. You could shoot a message or a comment on YouTube. Yeah, I do check that. I think about it. So you guys know the drill by now. So how much are you really blogging? Good question, right? Answer yourself honestly. Look at yourself in the light of truth. And it'll be really freeing, guys, because when you say, okay, I really haven't put in the time, then when you start putting in the time and you're being generous, patient, and persistent, creating and connecting, as those numbers, as the passion expands and the numbers increase a little bit more, then you're not going to have to goad yourself. You'll be like, I'm blogging today. Either by Twitter. Oh, good deal, Chris. Well, I'll keep them coming, man. I'll keep them coming. And it's definitely a nice worldly feedback when I'm seeing, like, again, it's like 1 or 2. I know you've probably been watching some here and there, maybe, whatever, which I appreciate deeply. But then when I see like it goes up to 12 in a day, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Because I know they're all hyper targeted now. I'm hitting my hashtags. I'm really, was one of my biggest mistakes for the longest time, and I learned it. So hitting the hashtags here on Instagram. So even if the numbers are like, it's like I know those are 12 people that are really interested in blogging tips, these blogging topics that are pressing. And I know that too, because when I started to really hyper target more recently, the numbers increased from what they were at with the same subscriber base. So that's a sign too that it's coming somewhat through my following, but then people are finding me through the tags, which is cool. And it took me a long time. Hey, Nikki, great to see you. It took me a long time to figure that out, to be open to it. But this is another example, guys. When you work, you're just going to get clearer. and you're going to gain confidence. You're going to have these ideas, and there'll be some struggle and failure too. Even when you're following a pro blogger's advice, we deviate. We're like, things are coming together. But then you'll notice these patterns, and you'll be like, oh, now I get it. When people say, keep doing more of what works. But you have to actually work to figure that out. And even if you're following a pro blogger's advice, again, we just find our style, all that good stuff. So thanks so much, everybody. Popsy and Nikki and Chris, much love, guys. Again, folks in the States, tomorrow, I'll say today, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the holiday. And that's it. Until next time, you guys know what to do. Ta-ta, Instagram. See you guys later. And see you later, YouTube. Enjoy paradise all.